without further ado, so Leland, I sent you a message on YouTube asking if we could Zoom call. Long story short, here we are. But I sent you that message because I wanted to know more about what you thought of the 70 weeks that I talked about in that video.
Yes.
Only because you had commented on it.
Yes. Right. So I recall you were talking about the 7 weeks of Daniel. You were counting them from November 29th, 1947, and counting the weeks, the Feast of Weeks, and then coming to the end of days. And the time that I had shared that, basically I found the proof of that. Now, of course, when you say a week in Hebrew, that's Shavuot. And so it's a Feast of Weeks. So what that is Shavua is 7, and the tav at the end is plural, so it's weeks. So when you weeks, it can be a cycle of keeping the Sabbath 7 days. It can be a cycle of 7 years. So it can be you can have a couple views. But basically, once we look at Daniel, we have to let the book of Daniel interpret it for us. And the book of Daniel does have, when Daniel says, okay, it'll be 62 weeks, it'll be 7 weeks, it'll be 1 week. And Daniel 10 says 3 weeks. Okay, so you got 62, you got 7, you got 1, you got 3. Okay, you got those numbers. Now it just so happens throughout the book of Daniel, all those numbers exist in years. So you got, I talked about Darius in,
Yes.
I think it's Daniel 5, verse 29, around there. It talks about Darius, he is 62 years. So that's Darius, 62 years. Daniel is prepared for the king, 3 years. Okay, so you got 62. You got, we can assume the 7 is 7 times Nebuchadnezzar, the 7 times passed over him, and then the 1. And so also Nebuchadnezzar, he had 12 months of the prophecy. So Daniel said, look, be careful, and it was precisely 12 months. So that's another year. So within the book of Daniel, it would code for us that the 62 weeks are in fact years. That just proves it. Now, in the time that I was off YouTube, I found something else, Jason. It was
what I want to hear.
Yeah, like if we apply this principle into Daniel 10. Now, I've never seen anybody do this, but when we really look at the Hebrew words, and you look at that word, Shavuot, or actually Daniel uses it in the masculine, so it's like Shavuim. It's of course in Daniel chapter 10. Now these words are very important because it's not like, oh, okay, the Daniel stopped writing prophecy and now he's writing fiction. No, the prophecy of Daniel 9 is continuing. So it's going into chapter 10, and then once we get into chapter 10, 2 times, he says, I fasted, I prayed 7. It says 3 weeks. Now, really what it says, in the King James, it says 3 full weeks. All right, but that's not what it says in the Hebrew. What the Hebrew says, it says 3 weeks, days. So what that is that's 3 weeks and 3 days.
Okay.
And we can prove it because what happens is Daniel is visited by the angel, okay, on the 24th day of the first month. So what had happened is he had fasted 24 days. So it's on the 24th day of the first month. Okay, so he proves that time period. Now what the next level to it is that he says it twice. Okay, he repeats. Okay, I fasted, in King James, 3 full weeks, or 3.5 weeks. And then he says 3.5 weeks again in the next verse. So what is 3.5 plus 3.5?
That's 7.
Exactly. Now, when will we get to that 7? When we count it, it's a continuation of the prophecy, as you mentioned in the video, the 3rd year of Cyrus.
Yeah.
So as you,
that's how I originally took it. It was the 3rd year of Cyrus, and then there's another 3, right?
Exactly. And so he's fasting and praying. He's a type and shadow of the 2 witnesses. Okay, because 2 witnesses, they have their ministry 3.5 years. They're in prayer and sackcloth and ashes. Daniel is the same. So it's that 3rd year of Cyrus is, that 3rd week, and that's counting. That's a continuation of the weeks that we saw in Daniel 9. So yes.
Okay, that was a good explanation. I can't seem to get that out correctly for some reason, but thank you. So you had emailed me, I call it an email teaching, but it was talking about Jeremiah 52. And
yeah,
you said that there are some connections between 52, Jeremiah, Daniel 8, and the Revelation 13 beast with 2 horns. And I wanted to get you to kind of summarize that, because that seemed very intriguing. I'm just like, that's perfect. I want to hear more about that. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically when we arrive at Jeremiah 52. Now, in the recent videos, you can see that I'm showing this these seal impressions, right? So you can see Sariah in the recent video. I said Sariah, he's here, right? So he's in Jeremiah 51 verse 58 through 63. Okay. Now the other one is Baruch, belonging to Baruch. This one. Okay. So they're the scribes for Jeremiah. Now those scribes are continuing in a release of information, a release of prophecy. So over many years, we have studied the year of the king. As you know, as you teach through the book of Esther, you get the book of Esther, it's the year of the king. This is the 1st year, the 3 years of the king. It goes to the 7th year when Esther is crowned. We go through that story. Okay. So what that is we call that the king's timeline. And that's a good name, because we're not saying it's only the book of Esther. We're just saying that throughout scripture, whenever the king is mentioned, that's time, the year of the king, the year of the king. We still have the year of the king. It's 2021 since Christ was born, Anno Domini. So it's a year of the king, universally recognized. But back then you had to count the years of that king, and it was different years for different nations. So even though it's different nations, and you've got a Persian king and you've got a king of Judah, what seems to happen when you look at that is the book of Ezekiel, Jeremiah 52, with King Zedekiah. Now we thought, and we knew that Netanyahu was King Zedekiah type, so that, he made the peace deal, he is, kind of this figure. But we didn't want to say clearly that the years of King Zedekiah are also the years of the king, just like in Esther, because we couldn't really prove it until Netanyahu was taken out of office. So he was taken out of office less than 2 weeks before the 9th day of the 4th month. So when we saw that, that was like, that's it. Wow. Netanyahu is Zedekiah. Now, once we knew Netanyahu was Zedekiah, we got the same years. So we got the same years of the king of Jeremiah 52. And what we did, I don't know if you watched the video on 9/11, but essentially we retraced those years of King Zedekiah through the king of Babylon. So the king of Babylon, okay, you go back those years, you fall right at 9/11, September 11th, 2001. Okay, so that's the beginning. Now this is important. When you look at the Bible, it says the year of the king. Okay, it'll say in the scripture, it'll say the beginning of his reign. So that's the year it begins. So the first year is the next year. Okay, so in our example, 2001 is a modern day fulfillment of the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. The beginning of his reign was 2001. The next year, 2002, was the first year of his reign. Well, the 19th year of his reign, okay, will be 2021. So now we have the king of Babylon. We're seeing prophecy align perfectly, where Obama had the same start, 2009, as Netanyahu. And so 2009 is the 9th year, of the king. And so that begins the Zedekiah prophecy. So Zedekiah now is our kind of timetable leading us to, from September 11, 2001, the years leading to Babylon is fallen, is destroyed, okay? So that is just extraordinary. And on top of that, that's where we also said, hey, Sariah, in the previous verse, in Jeremiah 51, Sariah is taken captive the same time that Zedekiah is. And he goes to Babylon, where Jeremiah tells him to read Jeremiah chapter 50 and 51 and cast the stone into the sea. Okay, so that is the sign of the fall of Babylon. And we're seeing, so this is the fall of Babylon. You got the ships sitting out in the sea, the ship masters are throwing dust in the air, crying, alas, alas, Babylon is fallen, Babylon is fallen.
It's true. It's true. They are.
It's so funny.
If you look now, at least here in the States, all the stores are running out of product, and the supplies are they're locked out in the ocean on these container ships. They can't get the product anywhere because of the tyranny that's coming down from our government here. And I'm not sure if it's happening over there in the Jerusalem area or not, who knows. But as far as I do know, is that the people over there, which I'm going to kind of keep the talk on the vids down a little bit so this doesn't get taken off YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm not saying clearly where I'm located. I'm not necessarily in that place that has that city you mentioned as the capital. I'm in a different place, but I can tell you most likely I'm in the worst place on earth. I'm serious.
That's how we all feel here. We understand you, man.
No, I mean, I cannot go to the store and buy groceries. I can't. I can't take a buck. I cannot. I am completely removed from society. Now, that was actually my instruction. So I've been in this situation before the virus. So the Most High told me, close yourself in your chambers. Okay. And that's coming up on 2 years. So that was even ahead of this. So I actually have not even left. I've been in quarantine for 2 years prior to this. I live on rations and, it's by faith, of course, we're doing this. And I don't want to upset the people. Oh, Leo, we have to send you money. What am I supposed to do with money? Eat it? I can't go to the store and buy food, except by faith. By faith, if, I pray and someone knows who I am and they can help me. Yeah, of course. But I'm just saying, we've been in this since July, I think. I think it was July. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was July, because it was just before the 9th of Av. It was a few days before the 9th of Av. It was the 5th month, And so, what we have to do is we have to look at what's going on there in Jeremiah 52. Because in Jeremiah 52, at the beginning of this siege, this is the third siege of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, the third one, he encompasses Jerusalem. And when he does, he cuts off the food supply. So he cuts off the food supply. So there's no food. So the people starve within, and so that's locking down the people. Now this isn't just Jerusalem, this is the whole earth. Everybody was locked down. So then that would go 1.5 years, and that would lead to Zedekiah would be captured. So he would be captured first. He tried to escape. He gets captured. Then the month later is the 5th month, and the temple is destroyed. Okay, so for in our time, the temple isn't here yet, or completed to be the, the thing, the obvious sign. Okay, so what it means for us, it's a sign of something related to the third temple happening soon. Okay, because for us, the abomination that makes it desolate is to give the sanctuary. Okay, so it may not be that, okay, the abomination of desolation straight away is, okay, the third temple is there and there's a big gold statue that's 100 feet tall. No, it may not. It's the abomination of transgression to give the sanctuary. Okay, so the sanctuary can be given on that. But anyway, what happened is we're going through this prophecy. We're repeating this prophecy of the destruction of Judah, okay, globally. And so here it's like, yeah, I have to, like, during the same time, Jason, Ezekiel, he's closed up. And the Most High says, close up. And Ezekiel 4, he has the Ezekiel bread. And he lays on one side 390 days. He lays on the other side 40 days. So that's about, what is that? That's like, how many weeks is that? I think it's like 70 weeks or something like that. A little less than that. I forget. I'm not doing quick. But basically what the other thing that I mentioned before, I want to say this, is that once we saw that Daniel 10 had an extra 3.5 weeks and another 3.5 weeks, okay, we also were watching from the peace deal, we are watching for that as a trigger event to actual count literal weeks.
Okay. Okay, so can you connect this to Revelation 13:11, the beast that came up with 2 horns?
Yes. Okay. Now, in order for us to, kind of come to terms with this, now what we have to do is we have to look at, okay, in Jeremiah 52, who is the king of Babylon? Who is Zedekiah? What's going on? Who are these figures? How does this translate in a modern construct? Well, we can look at that, and we look at Daniel 8. So in Daniel chapter 8, we have the goat against the ram. Now, we have to say some things that are strange to our, normal education, but this is prophecy. Prophecy is principalities and powers. They're the forces in high places that are controlling what's going on. And so they're in our history books and everything to give us a different narrative so that we don't actually understand the Bible. We don't actually understand what's going on. So what's going on? Well, we have to retrace, we have to say in Revelation 13, the second beast on the earth that has 2 horns, it's a lamb, has 2 horns that speaks as a dragon. Most of us that are Protestants, we say, oh, that's the Pope. Yes, we agree with that. Now, we also believe that it was the Vatican, and it was that desire to create what we would call jihad or modern day terrorism. So they made a messianic figure and groomed him as Muhammad. Okay, so his wife, one of his wives, his early wives, was Catholic, and she wrote all the Quran stuff and kind of formed it in a religiosity that seemed like the Bible and seemed like, the Hebrew scriptures and the New Testament. But really what he was doing, he was setting up a jihad. He was setting up a mercenary army for the Vatican. That's what Islam is, okay? So once we realize that, then we have this lamb over here with the 2 horns in Revelation 13. And then we come to Daniel 8, and we have a ram with 2 horns. Well, who's that? That's the mercenary army. that is the offshoot of the Lamb. Okay?
All right.
So what happens, we again, we have to look at a little bit at ancient history to see this. Okay? Now in ancient history, let's go through, because what happens in Daniel 8 is an Armageddon. Yes. Okay. But let's look at the goat and the ram in Daniel 8. So when we look at that, it says clearly, the angel Gabriel clearly says the goat is Grecia, or in the Hebrew Yevan, what we will call Greece today. And the ram is Medo-Persia. Okay? And the goat goes in the ram. Now we know in Daniel 11, it's a type and shadow, and Daniel is prophesying something in the future when actual Greece would come in, okay, and go to war against the Persian Empire, and the Persian Empire would thus go into the Grecian Empire. So Daniel 11 talks about that, talks about Alexander the Great, and then the army, it's split into 4, places. Okay, so what happens is within those 4 places, you end up with the king of the north against the king of the south. So the king of the north was Antiochus Epiphanes, as a type and shadow of the Antichrist. And the king of the south was Egypt, with Ptolemy. So that's the war that's going on. Okay, so let's think about that. So Egypt, all right, is also our type of the ram in the Middle East. Okay, like in Islam, Ishmael, they believe that they're Arabs, so Ishmael, his mother is Egyptian, Hagarine, she's from Egypt, okay? And then you got, the Antichrist coming from Greece. So that's the king of the north, and they have this conflict, all right? Now we have proof of this also by, in ancient times, King Necker from Egypt fought at Asher by the Euphrates. Okay, that's in 2nd Chronicles, I think 35. And Josiah died at Megiddo as a Har-Megiddo, Armageddon. Okay, so I know that's a lot. It's a lot of history. It's a lot of things to say, but you have to say all that in order to come to terms with a modern construct of what is going on. So, and now what we can say is that, yeah, modern times that the same thing would happen. The Islam would be this mercenary army for the Vatican and for, United States.
Okay.
And so that's how the ram can be from the lamb with 2 horns of a dragon.
Okay. So that was actually a very good explanation. It was way more in depth than I was thinking, off the top of your head. But you are Leeland Jones, so. I can only, I tried to make the videos and the content short. So what I share publicly is only the tip of the iceberg. I have so much more information that could just absolutely overwhelm you. And so I'm trying to do this quickly and simply. Now, the other thing is this is led by the Spirit of God, because these are things that I've even just looked at like today. Yeah, exactly. In conversations like what you can see in the email, piecing together how Armageddon, there was an Armageddon scene of Egypt against Asher. And so now I just want to backtrack one other thing again. Now, when we counted those weeks, before we were talking about, we counted those weeks from the peace deal, and we would arrive to this Pentecost time frame, the 4th month, the 5th month. Now, once we did that, we added those extra 3.5 weeks. And once we did, we came to essentially a few days after the 9th of Av. Mm-hmm. So it's think about it. It's the 70 weeks of Daniel in chapter 8, plus 7 weeks in Daniel chapter 10. So I got a question for you here, because you just mentioned the 9th of Av again. I believe it's Jeremiah. I don't remember exactly which chapter, but he mentions like a few day period, like the 7th through the 10th of Av, So is that telling us that, hey, listen, it's not going to boom happen on one particular second? It could be somewhere in that couple days?
Yes, that's correct. When we say the 9th of Av, it's basically a Hebraism. If we say that, most people will say, "Oh, I know what that is. The first temple was destroyed on that day. The second temple was destroyed on that precise day." But yes, if you look at the prophecy, it is exactly beginning, and the house was destroyed from the 7th day, and then many other places it's the 10th day. Okay, and this is further proof of the book of Ezekiel. So the book of Ezekiel also says the 10th day of the 5th month. You know, so he's prophesying well in advance. So Jeremiah is in 52 is essentially recording what happened. So Jeremiah will be prophesying it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But Ezekiel is actually getting instructions from Most High. Says, "Son of man, write this day in this year." Okay, so he writes those days in year, and then many of the prophecies happen right on those days.
Absolutely, they do. It's amazing. So you had just connected everything together for everyone to the Revelation 13 beast. But I wanted to ask this while we're right here at this point. So a lot of viewers that I have, you know, they troll, they say this, they say that. And one of them, I actually don't think they were trolling. They're actually asking a very good question. They said that I'm going to quote it here. It says, "It's possible that the lamb with 2 horns in Revelation 13 that spoke as a dragon is actually a shaggy goat with 2 horns and is the depiction of the devil." Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Me too.
I do agree with that. Basically, we all right, when we look at this, this is so horrible and so crazy, but we have to say, when we get to the first beast of Revelation, remember it has the components of a lion. It has a mouth of a lion. It has the body of a leopard. It has the feet of a bear, and it's a terrible beast, and the dragon gives its power. So those are 4 components that you see in other places in Scripture, particularly in Daniel 7. So another way of looking at that is we're formed in our mind of cowboys and Indians, good guys and bad guys, police and criminals. Well, the beast doesn't really care what side you pick, whether it's blue or red. It's just as long as you kill each other and you bring Armageddon and you just destroy everything. So
it's all the same beast anyway, right?
Yeah, they're all just beasts. The only beasts on our side are the living creatures and the cherubim, right. And so they're higher. So we're in a whole other different kingdom and different thing of the kingdom of heaven. And so really we need to be in the order of the cherubim and around the throne, because those are the principalities that are above these other ones. But the Apostle Paul said that it would be known in the last days, it would be known the principalities and powers. So it is important for us, because we could be so ignorant and deceived by this whole thing that we end up worshiping the Antichrist. We take the mark of the beast. We have this other bad guy. Oh, but this government is good. Oh, our guy, we're on the good side, right?
To me, no government is good. I didn't ask for any rulers. I'm sure you didn't, except for Jesus. And that's the way I kind of live my life. But
yeah, but the thing about everything in the book of Revelation, where we talk about the mark of the beast and we talk about the beast, there has to be 2. We talk about Mystery Babylon. Well, there has to be the woman clothed with the sun. If there is Babylon, the city, there has to be New Jerusalem. So we always, I like to say, let's try and give it equal time. So like, okay, if we talk about the mark of the beast, let's talk about the seal of God. If we talk about the beast, let's talk about the cherubim. Lion, ox, me, and eagle. You know what I mean? So
that's a good point. So I had to make notes. There's so much that I think we all need clarity on. I try, but I would much rather the clarity come from someone as yourself. So in an email teaching summary that you sent me, you said, quote, "But who's this ram that sweeps through the Middle East? It's Islam, which from the onset calls for jihad and the killing of infidels, especially true Christians and Jews." Just to clarify, what you meant by that is not that the people that are Islamic are bad people, but the false religion of Islam is. Am I correct?
Right. Yes.
And that is,
you know, in our, now this is a little bit difficult to, you know, explain to Americans that haven't been in the Middle East, haven't like lived in an Islamic country or something. No, there's no working together and getting along. Now, I know those people do exist, but personally, I don't believe a real believer in Jesus Christ will ever, you know, be equally yoked with a Muslim. I don't believe it. I don't buy it. And I've had huge problems with the Muslims, you know, and so it's not like, oh, okay, you know, you believe this, no. They are aggressive in their kind of evangelism. It's not like, oh yeah, you can do that now. I'm just saying, when you're there in their country, they're like, you know, they're like, you're an infidel. You know, you need to change. You need to believe in Muhammad. You need to do all this stuff, you know?
and the funny thing is, they actually believe in Christ as a prophet, not as the Savior or Messiah.
Right. So there's a lot of prophecy and different things that they have. You know, they have different kind of, they have a Mahdi. The Mahdi is kind of like an Antichrist guy. They got a Dajjal. He's kind of like I you know, and then you got Christ, and they say, yeah, Christ is going to come back and he's going to defeat the Mahdi or something like that, you know. But anyway, you know, that stuff is just kind of confusion, and it's a way when you're like, think about it. If you're the Vatican, if you're on the, we'll play devil's advocate. If you're on the other side and you want to confuse the people, you want to make it look like the Bible. You want to make it look like the truth. Just be, you know, but just be different. So it's got the religiosity of fasting and praying and religious things, okay, but ultimately, no, it is definitely jihad. And like I'll just tell you a quick story. Some people know this, but I was attempting to go to Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia through Jordan, and I got detained by the border patrol in Saudi Arabia, and they sent me back to Jordan because that's where I have my passport. And so I get to Jordan, and I got the secret police, and I got their intelligence services, and everything is interrogating me, and they think I'm ISIS. They think I'm a terrorist. They're like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I just got lost in the desert, you know." And so the guy in the Secret Service is just like, you know, the different ones would come in, and this one guy comes in, and he is like this big angry Muslim, and he's like, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "I teach the Bible on YouTube." And he goes, "You teach Jesus Christ in the Middle East?" And I was like, "Oh, that was not the right answer, I guess." I mean, this guy was furious, and I was like, uh-oh. So anyway, yeah. But I mean, I have posted that because people were concerned about me and everything. And ultimately, that was my own mistake. I was convinced in my mind. I said, the Most High is sending me. I'm going to Mount Sinai. I'm going to walk through the desert. And no, everything happened, just curses and horrible things. You know, just horrible things happened. So I suffered terribly, but I was grateful. I could still continue the ministry. And then what happened? I went to the United States for 2 months, and you know, kind of repented and came to a little bit of a right mind understanding. And then I got sent to Jerusalem. So I
Question: were you extradited back to the States, or did you choose to, come back to the States?
no. I was extradited. Yes. I was detained, and once you're detained, you cannot leave. You're you're bound by papers. You don't have your passport till you get on the plane to leave. So
different world over there. Huh? So I wanted to bring something up because we got on the topic of Islam, and I think it's important that we know our enemy. And I'm not saying that the people are the enemy, the flesh and blood. I'm saying the religion is that they're clashing with Christianity. And I think it's important to know our enemy and not the people. But in knowing your enemy, I have read a lot of the Quran. And in there it does say, quote, "The most awful name in Allah's sight is a man calling himself the King of Kings." It's in there. I don't know exactly where it is, but it is in there. It says, well, who's the King of Kings? We all know. And that's, I believe, put in there, obviously, by the Vatican or Catholic Church creating Islam well after Christianity was created or began. So I wanted to say that because I completely agree with you. And I think it's crazy that, man, you were extradited back to the States because of that, because of saying that that about YouTube. Come on.
No. I mean, no. Look. What I did was not right. I had crossed a border into another country, so that's just what. Yeah, that's just what happened.
They extradited you for that, not because of what you do.
Yeah, exactly. That's just standard operating procedure. But I'm just saying, in my interrogation and things that I went through, it was not normal. It was, it was very unusual. It's a long story in itself. Yeah, I have some interesting stories, especially my failure,
Sure. Okay. So, can you elaborate on the Ezra prophecy of 1510 to 1512 days? There's multiple ways you get this. And the 220 Nethinims. Some have trolled me saying that what I put in that video was private interpretation, regardless of the word that Ezra used in chapter 8, verse 1, which was genealogy, meaning time.
I'm going to blow your mind. You're not going to believe what I'm going to say. Okay. And this has to be a conversation led by the Spirit, okay, where things are preordained. So, okay, what did we talk about earlier? We talked about Jeremiah 52, right? Okay. Now, the concept, of course, is very strange to, these people. They don't know. They're coded within the scriptures. There's things that are just not what you think, okay? You may have mentioned it too, like how the years of the people are days in Genesis chapter 5. But circling back to Jeremiah 52, what it tells us, it tells us the captives taken to Babylon, and they go in 3 waves. In the first wave, there's 3,023 people, 3023. And the second wave, there's 832. And there's another one, which I can't think of, but if you add them all up, it comes to 4,600. Now, there's the 2 numbers I want you to consider is 3,023. If you divide that in half, you come to 1,511. Right? And
at that point, that's when I just said, I agree with him. It's 1510 10, 15, 11, 15, 12, somewhere around there. Can't even disagree.
But let me finish. So this is saying 15:11. It doesn't. I'm not concerned about it either. But what I'm concerned about is our interpretation correct, Jason. Now we should see it in multiple places in Scripture. Okay, the way that you take the 2,300 and you apply it twice, you get the 1,290 days. Okay, that whole view, we have to have multiple witnesses. So yes, I agree. In Ezra 8, it's there. Is it 15:10? Is it 15:11? Well, it says 15:11 in Jeremiah 52. If you take 3,023 and take half of it, it's 15:11. Now, remember what they added up to? They added up to 4,600. What's half of 4,600?
2,300.
Exactly. It's Daniel's timeline. It's our second witness in Scripture that it's precisely 1,511 days or 10 days, however you want to do it. And it's the counting of 2,300. Now notice it's 4,600. It's 4,600 because you apply the 2,300 twice.
Okay,
Amazing.
So this is to all the people watching this video. That is the connection right there from Ezra to Jeremiah and how it applies to the timeline and the era that you're living through right now. He just confirmed that to you guys. No more trolling. It's not private interpretation. It's just not.
That's three witnesses. We got three witnesses to the same thing. So what that means is that the calculation and the application of Daniel's timeline in Daniel chapter 8 and using Daniel 12 is right. We have three proofs of it, okay? Now, the only other thing you can say and dispute is like, well, it's not happening now, but it is. I mean, the things in that prophecy are happening now. Now, the other thing is, I want to say this too, because I went through a lot of trolling and I went through a lot of stuff too, terribly. And I said, okay, I'm kind of finished online anyway, so that's it. Well, but the thing that I want to get across to the people is the idea with this. Some people are like, well, we can't know the day of the hour and that stuff. Okay, you can't. But look, you should be able to determine if you're within 5 years, within 10 years, within 20. So the purpose of what we're trying to get across to people, it doesn't matter even if we're off by a day or a week or a month or even a year. The prophecy is happening. We're saying, look, the prophecy is at hand. Now, if you want to nickel and dime me about a day or two, delete.
Exactly. That's what I feel like I'm doing so much of is delete you, block you, delete you, block you. Listen, I don't do anything that I'm doing for likes or views. I'm not. I'm doing it to document my studies. And that's basically why I'm doing it. And I agree with you there. Block, delete, doesn't matter. The more they do, the more I have to do in my off time. The more things I got to tap on. So we're good. Okay.
Yeah, and it's getting, because the people have taken the mark of the beast, and now they're just being controlled by the beast to target, certain people, certain channels. And so it's the amount of because I've had troll farms where people are just hired in a whole farm, and it's just so you can delete and block, but they just reproduce like rabbits, and they just keep coming in new accounts, and it's just crazy.
It is, and it's funded as well. I mean, the trolls are funded by folks out there with lots of dough, so they'll never ever stop. I agree. So another question. I'm sorry, there turned out to be a few more questions here than I originally planned on, but I thank you for your time. So I've been searching for answers to this question. Tried to reach out to you once in the past, never got a reply, but that's neither here or there. I've come up with a few answers, and no big deal. I know you got things to do, you're busy, you're not waiting for a comment from Jay Roy. It's like, whatever. Um, but I've found a few answers to this so far. I tried to make a video about it, and I feel like I completely failed. But I'm going to let you answer this question, maybe throw in my 2 cents afterwards. The question was, if someone took the VAXX before they knew or realized what was going on with it, by coercion or otherwise, can they repent of it?
Right. This is the common question. Now, my first response, I don't answer that question. I get that question all the time. I don't answer it. If I were to answer it, the first thing I would say is, what does the Bible say about those that take the mark of the beast?
It says they worshipped the beast too.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, okay, now that we're actually in it, we're seeing its implementation. You know, there's a reason why, you know, you have to keep taking it and take it and take it and take it and over and over. And that on the card, it has like 6 slots. You have 6 slots, okay? So if you know, if you just keep going along, you know, with the program, yeah, by the end, they're gonna say, okay, look, everybody is doing fraud. They're cheating on the QR code. They're, you know, they're using fake slips. So we have to put the authorization on your person. And you know, one of the ways we came about doing that is, you know, but that's going to be another also application of the Pharmakia, right? So it's also going to be a reason for that. Oh, we got another, you know, thing, a variant, a strain, and this one is going to take care of that. And while it's there, with the authorization to be there too. So that's like number 8 on the card. But now you don't need the card because it could be on the person. Now, nobody said the mark of the beast has to straight away be on the hand or the forehead. It's just that it's an implemented plan. It doesn't mean that straight away you can't buy or sell. It's an implemented plan. So it doesn't happen in the beginning. So you could take it in the beginning and not get the actual thing and complete 100% fulfillment until the end. So now, did you see the video on the Greek priest that had taken the mark? I'll send it to you, because when I did the video called, you know, spirituality and the God gene, that was a year ago, more than a year ago. It was the summer last year. And so we're, you know, you post this stuff and then you wait for the evidence. Okay, how can you prove, you know, how can you test a monkey to see if its spirituality is eliminated? Is it the monkey not going to church? I mean, you don't know. You have to do it in human subjects. So we were waiting for the evidence of that, or someone that was spiritually inclined to admit to the fact that they were experiencing something. And there was a Greek priest, and he says, yeah, you know, he goes into the detail. Now, it's a fascinating video. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but basically what he did is he went fasting and praying for 40 days because he lost his whole spiritual connection and everything. He lost it. And he was so, you know, distraught, he began fasting and praying, and he did so over 40 days. And the situation improved. Now, I don't know, the other thing I want to answer that, I want to say, first off, what does the Bible say? Secondly, I want to say, I'm not God. I'm not on the white throne. I'm not deciding who goes where. I don't have the book of life open to see whose names are on it. So, you know, I'm not going to play God and answer that. I'm going to say, look, this is the mark of the beast, okay? It is an implemented plan, all right? I'm not saying what's going to happen, to your soul, all right, that's the white throne where that happens. But the purpose of the revealing of the Lord Jesus Christ is to get people to make decisions on their eternity while they're living. Normally, the judgment of the soul takes place when the person dies. But instead of the eternity at death, all men must die and face the judgment. But instead of dying, you're alive, and you have the two trees before you: the tree of life, tree of knowledge of good and evil. You have the seal of God, and you have the mark of the beast. Okay, so you have to decide your eternity while you're living. That's the purpose of the apocalypse. And then those that, decide, and they enter the promised land, they enter the millennium. So, yeah, I mean, there's just horrible things people force, the forced situation or whatever, but I'm not going to decide people's eternal souls because I'm not on the white throne.
Gotcha. That was a great explanation. I agree with you 100%. And just to mention that the parts that I'm looking at that might relate to this Greek priest that you're going to send me something on. In Revelation 9, verse 21, it says, and they repented not. So to me, that's saying they repented not, which means they had the choice to. They had the choice to repent. They chose not to. Like is what you just said, they're making decisions now while they're still alive. And getting back to what you had said, that normally judgment takes place when we die, at death. That's coming from, say, Hebrews 9, verse 27. It says, it is appointed that men die, and after this, the judgment. Right? So that says judgment takes place after death. And that's backing up everything you just said. So I agree with you 100% there. And
when you quote Revelation 9:20, it says, remember, they repented not of their Pharmakia.
Right.
So it gives this idea that the Pharmakia in itself causes the person not to repent, just like the mark of the beast does. When we read it later on, the people repented not of their works in Revelation 16. So, the fact that like this priest, he did repent, he was completely distraught with his situation, And
do you believe that this might be your opinion, do you believe that he might have been having some effect on the VMAT2 gene? I remember Absolutely. Your videos you did on that. They were great videos and very informative. But
that's absolutely what happened to him. When you basically what happens is when you get this video, the guy speaking is speaking in Greek, so you have to read the subtitles.
Okay.
In fact, I would do a video on that if I could just get the subtitles, and I would just talk through, what he's saying. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that that's what happened to him. That's exactly what happened to him.
It's sad to hear that happening. And, I actually see some of that happening with some of the folks that I know around the neighborhood that I live in. They seem very distant. They seem like they're ready to get down on their knees and do whatever the government says and just follow along. They're going along to get along. It's like they're zombies. It's just crazy. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, no, not happening. Not happening. Nope. And, my employer, I work full-time for a grocer, local. And my employer has yet to require it of the people that work in the stores. They know what's going on. My corporate office knows what's going on, and they're fighting back. They are trying to fight back. And being a very large merchant in the area, I'm surprised that my employer is fighting back against the. I'm sure you heard about the mandate that Mr. Joe decided to tell everybody he's he's going to put in place here for any employer over 100 employees. So my employer said, well, most of our stores have an average of 96 people working in them, so we're not going to make them do it. They're smart. They know what's going on. But the corporate office did have to. It's a separate entity. They have 400 something people working there. So they did have to mandate that on them, and it's sad. Okay, so thank you for your comment on the Vaxx. What is the best advice that you can give people right now in regards to what they or we should be doing with the time that we have left, in regards to praying, in regards to anything that we can do that doesn't involve praying?
Well, everything you do must involve praying. And I want to take a step back, like the approach I said earlier. So remember how before we want to give equal time. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about the mark of the beast. Let's talk about the seal of God. Okay, so if there's a mark of the beast, that must mean everything in the prophecy has to happen. Okay, so the locust could not touch those with the seal of God. Well, what is the seal of God? Well, if we look at it, we can see that the modern way we look at, like, you know, an ID card, your address, your birth certificate, modern things that we know in society, okay, as a citizen, well, that's all in the seal of God. Because if you look at Revelation 3, verse 12, okay, it's talking about those in the church of Philadelphia, and he says, I will write the name of the Father. So that means that your name changes. Just like you have a last name, your name is the name of your father. So our name is the name of the Father, okay? And then it says, and the name of the city, which is New Jerusalem. So that's your mother. So now we're getting a birth certificate here. So the father's name is a birth certificate. Your mother's name is the city, is New Jerusalem, which comes down, right? And if you overcome, I'll make you a pillar in the temple, okay? And he also says, I will write upon him my new name. Okay, so now you have your spouse. So you got the name of your father, you got the name of your mother, you got the name of your spouse, and your address. Okay, so now this is your identification of the kingdom of heaven. So how do you navigate this world? Well, you have to do it by faith. You have to believe who you are in Christ. And who you are in Christ, you have to say, I'm not falling for all the protest. I'm protesting the government and getting out. No, this is the beast of Revelation. The beast is gonna crush you, man. But how do we overcome? We overcome by the blood of the Lamb. Okay, and the word of his testimony. I like to say, yes, it's autos, you could say it's your testimony, but your blood never got anyone's to overcome anything. It's his blood. So it's the testimony, it's the prophecy. So the most important thing is to understand the prophecy. If you understand the prophecy, you will be extremely excited. And you won't even worry about, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? All right, we'll get to that, but I want to explain another thing real quick. When we see the things in the prophecy related to the beast, right? Just like we talk about, okay, there's the mark of the beast, there's a seal of God. You got the two. All right. In Daniel 7, it says, the lion that had two wings of an eagle. And Daniel says, I beheld, and the wings of an eagle were plucked. And he was made to stand up on the feet like a man. Now that lion that had two wings of an eagle, that's the Revelation 12 beast, where it has the mouth of a lion. Okay, but what happened when those eagles' wings were plucked? Okay, well, this is a sign for us. If we see this Antichrist figure and his wings are going to get plucked, well, that's Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had his dominion taken. But then we see those eagle wings. We see them show up in Revelation 12. When they show up in Revelation 12, they're given to the woman. So to the woman was given the 2 wings of a great eagle. Well, what does it mean? Well, we go back to Daniel 7, you see 26, verse 26. The judgment will set, and they will take away his dominion. They will take away his wings to consume and destroy unto the end. So if we see the sign of the dominion taken from the beast, those wings are given to the woman. And Daniel 7:27 says, and then the judgment, and then the kingdom and dominion of all of heaven will be given to the saints of the Most High. That's what the eagle's wings are. So the dominion of the beast and the dragon, when he is cast to the earth, his wings are plucked and they're given to the saints.
Amazing.
I hope you and everybody that just heard that will think about that. Okay, so what that means is everybody, all the principalities, they have to serve the saints. Okay, so, you know, of course, what's going to happen is the beast through fear and propaganda, you know, you can't buy or sell. You can't. Well, wait a minute. If we saw that sign, which we did, okay, those wings were removed, and we believe they're given to the woman. Well, that doesn't happen, Jason, at the end of the millennium, because the woman is given the 2 wings that she will fly into the wilderness, into her place for another times and a half of time.
Right.
You see, that's why once the saints know who they are, okay, this is the same dominion that was taken in the garden. Okay, it's given to the saints. So Christ is reigning, okay, he's ruling, and he's taking that dominion. He's, even Michael the archangel has cast the dragon out. And when he does, I mean, the beast cannot, you know, do anything with the saints. The only thing he can do is kill them or deceive them, so they don't know what time they're in. So this is why prayer is important. How did I know this? Did I watch a video on YouTube? No, I shut myself in a cave and prayed and fasted and studied the scriptures over and over. And I've actually practiced this, where I can tell you stories of evidence of you know, what's going on. So I've actually done it, is what I'm saying. So it's amazing. It's amazing, because once the saints come into their dominion, the whole world has to serve them.
Makes me laugh too. Haha. That's what they get. Okay, so in my opinion, the most important thing we all can do is pray at this point in time. 2 Corinthians 7:14 tells us, you know, if we humble ourselves, we pray, we seek his face, then he will forgive. Yeah. And we repent, then he'll forgive our sin and heal our land. Not before all that stuff. We got to do those things just the way they are. And so I agree with that. I think everything needs to involve prayer.
It says he sends the locusts. Okay, so right. Once the locust and the mark of the beast in effect, he sent the mark of the beast. He sent the locust. Okay, so what the people are now going to be confronted with, people in their household, people at work, you know, with the locusts. So yeah, we have to be more and more in prayer. Prayer is so important, no question.
Is there anything else people need to be doing in the physical reality world that they see with their own 2 eyes every day other than that? I get people saying you need to buy ammunition and do this and do that. Listen, all you're going to do, in my opinion, is create a violent future for yourself doing those things. We need to accept the fact that it is our point to die.
Yes, that's exactly. I'm gonna address that. I like that you said that, because it's so important. But I want to say this. I think I'll do a video on this as well, but I'll start it here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share. The people can do whatever they want, okay? But what I'm going to suggest that the people do is, in order to enter this era. We're going through this whole transition of one era of time ending and we go into the millennium. This is very important, very significant. We have to know the prophecy. We have to know what's going on. We have to dedicate all our time into it, okay? So what I encourage the people to do is take the time that you take in this world, buying and selling and taking care of blah, 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 blah. Reduce that to the bare minimum. So you just reduce that to just what you need to exist. And then increase the prayer, increase the study, increase the worship, increase that, and shift your whole life into that. Now that's what I did. That's what I did in like 10 years ago. Yeah, it's 10 years. I can't believe it. And I lost everything in the world. And I said, oh, well, I'll just worship and see what happens. And here I am 10 years later. So it's possible. Now, I can't explain to you how I did that. How can I say like, okay, what do I do? I don't know. I just pray and worship and just and say he's good and his mercy endures forever and give him thanks every morning and every evening. Okay. Now, to go into practical things, yes, I'm going to do, when I do the video, I'm going to share on Ezekiel and what he did. So, I mean, now this was hard. This is not easy. You have to defeat other things in your own heart and your soul, living in isolation. And there's a lot of even overcoming mental illness. Yes. That's the purpose of what this whole, there's like a quarantine syndrome or something. It's called something like that. And I had that where, I was used to traveling and, going. And all of a sudden I'm just like in a cave. And I can't go anywhere. But that being said, now I love it. I never want to leave. I have no desire to ever leave or whatever. If I have to, whatever happens. I don't know. Just like I've stopped being in control years ago. But what I want to say is this: the things, the nanoparticles and so many things are coming so much in the food supply and the water, so much that it is good to have a diet. And I do Ezekiel's diet. So basically what I do is I do grains. In fact, I'll show you, because when I do this, I set up like the grains and the lentils and stuff. I soak them and, make it with rice and, and that's like my main thing. That's like the main thing I eat. So I have like a breakfast one, which is like the oatmeal. And then I have like the things in Ezekiel. It talks about millets, lentils, and all that. And that's, and I have pasta. Upon celebration times, like the feast, I'll have chicken or fish. But that's the only thing I've been eating for 2 years. I'm healthy. I'm not, there's nothing, but I'm very blessed because outside there's many fruit trees growing. I have pomegranates growing and grapes and almonds and all kinds of things are just growing in trees outside too. So that's a great blessing.
Yeah, sometimes I wish I could decrease my lifestyle way more than I have. And, I've been very, very blessed with the things that are in my life. But as of the last 2.5 years, I've been working towards forsaking it all. If I lose it all, I don't care. The only thing, the one thing that would really hurt is my dog and my wife. I love them both more than anything. So yeah, but forsaking everything in the world is what I've been working on. If I lose it, I lose it. But I'm not going to take my eyes off the Lord. I'm not going to do that. Anyway.
And you can do that. Many people, like when I first started entering this calling, really in like 1990, and I was just a kid. I was like 20 years old, and I didn't know anything. I never knew anybody that just did that just lived by faith as a regular person, like a regular believer, without some kind of like ministry or selling books or a missionary or being some type of job, right? So I couldn't wrap my brain around that. I was like, well, I need to get a job, And I didn't enter this calling for another, 30 years. No, for 20 years, sorry. But I never saw anybody like me that was just living by faith, as a believer. Now, the people probably watching this think I'm like, a special person, or, like called to this. I am called to it. That's true. It is a calling. It's to teach. But I don't think of it that way. I just think I'm a regular person. I don't really see myself as different than you. So there are people that are like, well, I'm losing everything. I'll just keep worshiping and praying and, live by faith. And, it's working out just fine for them. So yeah, it's exciting to walk by faith. It's exciting to lose control. We want to be in control, and this is everything. Well, no, that's what Christ comes. He comes to destroy our idols, destroy our control. So like, we're just like, okay, when the Son of Man comes, will we find faith on the earth? He doesn't say is he looking for control? People that are, in control of everything, and they have everything stored up, and they have guns and all the food. But yeah, I think I would recommend to people, if I was you, and because the situation I am in, you're gonna have, okay? So like, I gotta stock up, and prices are going up and everything else. So yeah, you want to keep dry things, and I would just get as much as you can,
And we get the idea of stocking up on things that we're going to need, like food, dry foods, from, my mind goes straight to Daniel, endure to the end, right? We're supposed to see that. We're supposed to get to the end. In my mind, we're supposed to strive to get to the end. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think for Daniel, as we kind of stay on this, if you really research it, Daniel, when his first stand in Babylon was food. In King James, it's the word pulse. He said, no, I'm not going to eat the king's meat. I'm not going to, have his wine. I'm going to have pulse, which it says in the King James. So basically that word is zeroah, and it's seeds. So it's kind of like grains. So he makes that stand in Daniel 1, and then he repeats it in Daniel 10. So in Daniel 10, he says, I'm not going to have the dainty things. I'm not having wine. I'm not having flesh. I'm going into prayer. So if we really look at that, and we begin to see this prophet's diet, okay, so that you make this stand against Babylon. And now it actually makes sense, because there's, nanoparticles in the food, in the and so really what I, come to understand is that what Daniel was doing was essentially Ezekiel 4, where Ezekiel was doing what we call Ezekiel bread, but really that's, the grains and, kind of what I showed you here, the millet and the lentils and that stuff.
Okay. This is a great lead-in to a question that I personally had. What, if anything, do you not concur with about the Tribulation timeline video that I posted? You said that you did concur with the seventh trumpet view of the 1335 days and the seventh bowl, and how that's all kind of connected and related. Go ahead.
Yes, that's right. I could look at that view. I could look at that. I could agree with that. There's, the most controversial thing for everyone is the rapture. Everyone wants to know, okay, when's the rapture? In the 1,335 days. So for me, that did happen. I do believe that. Now I could be wrong. There could be, another piece out there that I haven't seen, but I do believe that was leading to what we talked about earlier with the woman given 2 wings of an eagle. Okay, because it could be the resurrection. Yes, I know you said that Daniel's lot will come up in the end. Yes, it could be. It could be. But I do think that that was really leading us to Revelation 12 sign, 1,260 days, to the woman giving the two wings of the eagle. You know, that I do believe. Now, this, you know, this is an opinion, and I can't prove it because there's a lot of moving parts. It's a very advanced prophecy once we look at the seventh trumpet and we look at the woes. And, you know, if I'm able to, you know, kind of piece it together, then yes, you know, I'll kind of publish something and I'll come up with something. But to summarize to the people what the comment I made is that I could look and we could have views that the sixth seal and the seventh trumpet both are at the end of the bowls. Okay, so like in the you know, there's a great earthquake and the mountains moved and you know, there's a lot of things going on that are also in that seventh bowl. Okay, so that you know, the timeline is such that it's a simple way to understand. Okay, here's the seals, here's the bowls. It doesn't mean that every little thing falls in every little slot of 6 months, you know, not necessarily. You know, the things can move. They can move and they can come up later. And we don't know until it happens. Okay, so the resurrection, we don't know. The prophecy is known at the times of the end, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, if we can look for the sixth seal, we can look for the seventh trumpet, we can look for those things. Within certain calculations, okay? And then we can look for them in other ones, you know?
So I had a question come up more times than any of the other questions from any of the videos that I've done recently, especially after I posted the Tribulation timeline video. It was, so what's going to happen on the 10th, 11th, or 12th of November? And my answer to them, of course, they're trolling when they say this. My answer to them was, nothing has to happen. But I'm a believer that something will between November and Pentecost. That it might be subtle. We might have to do some looking around and some searching. To see, whoa, look at this. This happened. This confirms that something is going on with the second bowl. And I don't know if you concur with that, if you have a comment about that. Is there anything that you're particularly watching for?
You know, when you do this type of thing, for most people, this is very unusual. Okay, like how can you say something in prophecy is going to happen on a well, there's, you know, the most controversial thing for everyone is the rapture. Everyone wants to know, okay, when's the rapture? In the 1,335 days. So for me, that did happen. I do believe that. Now I could be wrong. There could be, you know, another piece out there that I haven't seen. But that is, I do believe that was leading to what we talked about earlier with the woman given two wings of the eagle. Okay, because it could be the resurrection. Yes, I know you said that Daniel's lot will come up in the end. Yes, it could be. It could be. But I do think that that was really leading us to Revelation 12 sign, 1,260 days, to the woman giving the two wings of the eagle. You know, that I do believe. Now, this, you know, this is an opinion, and I can't prove it because there's a lot of moving parts. It's a very advanced prophecy once we look at the seventh trumpet and we look at the woes. And, you know, if I'm able to, you know, kind of piece it together, then yes, you know, I'll kind of publish something and I'll come up with something. But to summarize to the people what the comment I made is that I could look and we could have views that the sixth seal and the seventh trumpet both are at the end of the bowls. Okay, So like in the there's a great earthquake and the mountains moved and there's a lot of things going on that are also in that seventh bowl. Okay, so that the timeline is such that it's a simple way to understand. Okay, here's the seals, here's the bowls. It doesn't mean that every little thing falls in every little slot of 6 months. Not necessarily. The things can move. They can move and they can come up later. And we don't know until it happens. Okay, so the resurrection, we don't know. The prophecy is known at the times of the end,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if we can look for the sixth seal, we can look for the seventh trumpet, we can look for those things within certain calculations, okay? And then we can look for them in other ones,
So I had a question come up more times than any of the other questions from any of the videos that I've done recently, especially after I posted the Tribulation timeline video. It was, so what's going to happen on the 10th, 11th, or 12th of November? And my answer to them, of course, they're trolling when they say this. My answer to them was, nothing has to happen. But I'm a believer that something will between November and Pentecost. That it might be subtle. We might have to do some looking around and some searching to see, whoa, look at this. This happened. This confirms that something is going on with the second bowl. And I don't know if you concur with that, if you have a comment about that. Is there anything that you're particularly watching for?
When you do this type of thing, for most people, this is very unusual. Okay, like how can you say something in prophecy is going to happen on a specific date? Well, this of course started in 2015. In 2015, I did that, and nobody knew who I was. I might have had 50 subscribers, but I was like, we're watching for something that could trigger Daniel's timeline and the tribulation. And I had a small team, and I didn't see it. I didn't know. But they're like, hey, Leeland, what do you think of this Baphomet statue? And I was like, what? The Church of Satan. And I was like, nah, it's not it. But then I couldn't get away from it. And I was like, no, man, this is it. What is this goat? And in Daniel 8, it's talking about a goat. No, this is it. This happened. And I always test everything. I'm always being like the lawyer trying to disprove. I argue against myself. I argue against, and ask myself questions. Why, And so what I've learned to do is when these things come up, I'm like, I don't know I can't say exactly, but I'm like something like this. And so what I think, okay, and I try not to think. I try to just read the Bible. But in reading the Bible, if for example, if the third temple were standing, okay, at the time of this prophecy, we say, okay, the abomination that makes desolate, well, we're looking for some kind of talking statue in the temple. But we don't have that. So it appears that it's something related to the third temple. Because as we mentioned earlier in the call, it says now this is another important distinction. In the King James, it says, how long till the daily sacrifice? And then it says, how long unto the transgression of desolation? Then the King James says, and then it says, and to give the sanctuary, and for the host trodden underfoot. Well, in Hebrew, the word and, you don't have the word and. There's a vav in front of the word. Okay, so that means like if you see the vav in front of the word, that means and that word. Okay, now there's no and between the transgression of desolation and to give the sanctuary. It's a continuous statement. So if we say that statement again, how long till the transgression of desolation to give the sanctuary?
So two separate events is what it's saying.
No, it's a continuous statement. So the abomination of desolation, we could view it in the timeline of the context of what they're talking about, is it's not the actual point of the statue being in the temple, like what Christ talked about when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel. Okay, the abomination of desolation could be to give the sanctuary in the timeline.
Okay, that the Vav, now that makes sense. Okay, because of the Vav. All right.
There's no Vav. Yeah, there's no Vav. There's no and. It's a continuous statement, and that's further substantiated by later on. It says there's another word which means to also. It says pollute. Okay, to pollute the sanctuary in Daniel 11, but that also could be another way of saying to give the sanctuary, or to kind of decree the sanctuary or release the sanctuary. So something related to that is a possible thing. And so we also have to look and say, well, we're not going to see on CNN, okay, the third temple is going to be built on such and such, blah, blah, blah. We have a prefabbed building right here. You know what I mean? But, some of these prophecies, as the channel has kind of continued, now more and more people are watching, and they're like, well, okay, well, let's see what happens. What is it? Which is good, because the information is more and more hidden. And typically I don't see it straight away. I mean, I could see at the daily sacrifice being taken on, April 30th, 2018. I was like, well, it's Netanyahu. But I didn't know how to make sense of that. I was like, okay, how is that the daily sacrifice? I mean, I was in Jerusalem for the last sacrifice, and that was a year later. So, how do we make sense of that? Well, it's war on Iran. It's right there in Daniel 8. It's still there. Okay. So that's what.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I wanted to bring up the Netanyahu is the Zedekiah. Now,
yes,
that all to fruition now, and we're like, okay, so this is true. It's actually happened. It's that's even further proof for people about the piece on Jeremiah 52, Daniel 8, and the two horns that came up out of the Revelation 13, and Zedekiah being Netanyahu. So now we have even further proof of this fact.
Exactly.
Okay.
Precise years. And so this is another thing too, with that real quick, is that in the Jewish mindset, what they're doing, remember, Jason, they're doing these fasts 3 times a year. They're doing them in the 10th month, the 4th month, and the 5th month. So they're rehearsing these prophecies over and over. And I did too. I would look at the fast, I would research it, and I would always be amazed. I'm like, well, when is the 10th? When does that actually happen? When do we apply that? When is that 10th day of the 10th month? When can we say, okay, we go from here to here to here? And it's really, you can be very vague and nebulous, and it can be like this, it can be like this, it can be like this. But we need something strong, and it was Netanyahu was taken out as prime minister, same time Zedekiah. Bang! Oh,
there it is. Okay, so, and out of all that, we get the 4 notable ones. Now, you did a video on this a long time ago. It was probably 5 years ago. So the 4 notable ones would equate to Clinton, Bush 43, Obama and Trump? Or
No,
are
no.
we ahead, a little further back?
So basically what the four notable ones is all right, now once we look at the four notable ones, we look at Daniel, we must find it in Revelation. Okay, we must find it in Revelation. So the four notable ones follow the great king. All right. So remember how earlier in the call we talked about jihad, right? Mm-hmm. So modern jihad being instituted once again after the fall of the Ottoman Empire and all that, it really started with the Mujahideen, and it started with Reagan. So our modern terrorists, okay, have to run in concert with these kings. So what ends up happening is that we get 6 of the 7 kings. So in Revelation, it talks about the 7 heads on the beast, which are 7 kings. Okay, well, those kings must be in Daniel somewhere. Well, they are. They're in Daniel 8, not 7, 6. So you got the great king, and from him comes the 4 notable ones: Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama. And then from them comes the little horn. Now, the little horn there is a forerunner little horn. So that little horn, he is applied to one of our 2,300 days. So he's in that. That's one little horn. Then there's another little horn. That's in Daniel 7. And he's also in those days. Okay, so what we were watching for way back then. He said, well, okay, Obama's gonna do something on this date. Okay, because he's in this window, and he's this little horn. So you got the 4 notable ones, and out of the 4 notable ones comes the little horn. So Obama, thus, you got the great king, 1, 4 notable ones, 5. From them comes the little horn. He's the 6th. So those are your 6 kings. So he is a forerunner type in shadow, little horn. Okay. Now, he doesn't do everything the little horn does in Daniel 7, because that little horn comes from the 10 horns. So in Daniel 7, you got 10 horns on the beast, and then you got the little horn speaking great things. Okay. So in Daniel 8, we got those. All right. Well, we got this, unusual thing where we have this 2. We have 2 little horns. We have 2 applications of 2,300 days. Okay. So that's why Daniel's timeline would have to tell us when the 7 years begin. Right? It would have to precede these 7 years. Okay. So yeah, the view there is that those are the all the presidents. They've all had jihad in different levels, where they've had the terrorists and different phases of it, and one president hands it off to another, and the one terrorist group hands it off to another. He keeps passing through. So we got Mujahideen to Al-Qaeda to ISIS, ISIS to Taliban. So it was Taliban in the 9th of Av this year taking Kabul, right? That was our sign. So that's that manufactured enemy on the other side. That, of course, that's going to continue. That's going to continue.
Yep. Okay. So, excuse me. Thank you for your comment on that. Got some more questions here. If I can figure out where it was. Some of these are completely off topic. I wanted to make most of this Zoom about your connection with Jeremiah, Daniel, and Revelation. And then I just had so many questions that people have been asking me. I don't know. So, a question that comes up quite often, and I did connect some of it together here in a video that I believe is titled Lake of Fire. Do you believe, personally, your own opinion, that geoengineering plays a part in any of the trumpet or bowl judgments?
Yes, yes, of course. So in the plagues in Egypt, remember that the wizards and the sorcerers could reproduce some of the plagues. So in Revelation 18:23, when it's talking about the great men of the earth, well, in ancient times, we would equate that to the sorcerers, the wise men that were around the king. So those wise men that were around the king, in Egypt, they could reproduce some of the things that Moses was doing. So yeah, it's possible that, of course, in Revelation, they'll say, the angel with the seal, or the angel with the trumpet, or the angel with the bowl is doing it. Yes, yes. But how does that work itself out? Can we find, scientific information? I don't know. I'm not worried about it. I just want it to happen. I just want to say, okay, well, this such and such has happened. And the other thing is, it's a little bit confusing to people that are not used to prophecy. We just think that, like I said, we have this simplified view of the world, cowboys and Indians, good guys and bad guys. So the bad guy would never be against the bad guy, So the beast would never be, one beast would never be against another beast. No, that makes no sense. Well, yes, of course, this is what all the wars were in. As well as the 10 kings, they make the woman desolate. So they turn on the woman, and then it says that they would fulfill God's will, or fulfill his purpose. I forget how it's worded there in Revelation 17. But basically, what that means is that you just think, oh, they're all on one side, they're all united, and blah, 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 blah. No, the beast, if Mystery Babylon is like just, America and the apostate church and whatever, the beast is going to turn on that woman. It's not like, oh, okay. It's like, okay, thanks for your tax dollars. Since World War II, we've amassed this, military industrial complex that is never to be rivaled in human history. Well, we don't need you anymore because it's the end of the world. So it's judgment time.
No, you're right. You're right.
And if you look into that, yeah, you can see a lot of things manufactured. And, some of it's hard to prove, some of it's not that hard to prove. But yeah, there are hurricanes, earthquakes, even tsunamis. I find it quite suspect that the tsunami in Japan with all this black water. Where's all that black water? Maybe there was a nuke that exploded that stirred up some debris. Mm-hmm. Why did they upgrade? They never upgrade earthquakes. They upgraded that earthquake.
They usually downgrade them, right?
Exactly. So, I can't really prove that. That's all I can really say. I'm just suspicious of it, But yeah, there's a lot of indications. The manufactured drought in the West and the flooding that's happening all over the world. Oh, it's a once in a 500-year flood again.
Or a once in 1,200-year drought in California. So my understanding here is that geoengineering, what's happening. You look up, it's there. They admit it. And now they want to dim the sun, which that's a completely separate subject I'm not going to get into right now. The point is that what Leeland just said was that geoengineering is witchcraft, sorcery, in all of that. It's part of the beast. It's part of what they're trying to accomplish here by getting us deceived and seduced. And do you believe that it would have something to do with a particular bowl or trumpet judgment?
Yeah, like some of them you could say. So when we look at this La Palma situation, some people say, well, it's the mountain that's cast in the sea, and the sea turns the blood. So yeah, you could say that. You could say, well, the mountain that's falling is producing lava, and the lava is blood red, going into the sea. Yeah, yeah, we could say that. And then we get two bowls. I think it's the second and third, which both have water turning to blood.
Mm-hmm.
So, when that pool of water in Jordan, across from the Dead Sea, when that turned red, they said, oh, this is iron oxide that's oxidizing it, changed its color. But I don't have an explanation for that. Do we need to follow Moses through Egypt and find a scientific explanation for everything his staff is doing? No, it happened. He always said, do this, and this is what will happen, and it happened. So we want to, in our modern society, we want to figure everything out. We want to tell God what to do. Okay, you're going to do it like this, and we're going to look at the solar flares But yeah, there's definitely planets that are entering the solar system and wreaking havoc. One of the things that someone said is that when those planets come, they do produce graphene oxide in the atmosphere. Now, where I am, I've seen those clouds. I had a video on one. And that material that comes from the cloud, that's like a fine dust, it's still there. And that was in March. So there is material that's in those. And we're having a very bad year for many of the fruit trees. The cherry trees are dying. So many of the fruit trees that have been there for 25, 30 years, they're dying. Many things are suffering. And so, I think a lot of it can be attributed to what is happening. And if the people don't know, everyone needs to go back and watch Last Day's channel. I don't know if you follow Last Day's channel, Jason, but basically, she has done a phenomenal job at explaining how solar eclipses are happening on an almost daily basis through these cameras in Colorado and Alaska. And there's an artificial sun. So there's some kind of like artificial reflective sun thing. And what happened is a planet will be there, it's obscured by the chemtrails, and the sun will pass behind it, okay? But then there's an artificial sun there following the track of the sun. And then sometimes like the whole land like becomes dark. But
I have seen that. Yes, I have seen that. Yeah. Yep. She does some great work.
Yeah. And so that is the fourth trumpet. So that is happening. That is happening on a regular basis. But we're being deceived. We're not able to, see that like every day.
I agree. They're trying to deceive us. Okay, so I think I got like 6 more questions for you.
Okay, I'll go rapid fire. Okay.
Okay. I got 6 more questions, and they're all from subscribers of mine. And listen, I've tried to answer their question, and they still come back and they say, well, this and that, and well, this and that, and this and that says no. So, okay. What can someone look to as a faith-based change in their life that can prevent pain, shame, and guilt from repeating in the future? How does someone heal from bad decisions of their own doing or ones that were done to them? Miss Holly.
Okay. So that's kind of like a healing ministry type thing. Okay. If I were to answer that quickly, basically what you have to do is you have to know who you are in Christ. If you don't know what Christ has done for you, you're always going to regurgitate your past in pain and suffering. And this whole world of psychology. And so we're kind of taught in this that, all these terrible things. Well, you have to bring all that to the cross. You have to bring all that to a place of asking for healing. Okay. You need to forgive people. Okay. You need to take that to Christ. Now, when I was 20 years old, and I mentioned earlier I was in this call, I was an alcoholic. Um, my life was just destroyed. My parents divorced when I was young. I was just a mess. I couldn't function in society. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go to college. I was just a mess. So I went through this process of him healing me with the hurts and pains of my parents' divorce. I thought it was my fault. So he took me through a process of, forgive, forgive your parents. He took me through a process of healing to step by step overcome that. And I began to identify myself of who I was, not based on the history of my life, but the cross and what Christ did for me. What Christ did for me was brought me the opportunity to live a Christ-like life. Okay, and then I was just instantly healed from drugs and alcohol. Things just were instant. Some other things I worked through. So you have to bring all that stuff. You have to repent of your stupid mistakes. Okay, if your soul is rehearsing your stupid mistakes over and over in your mind, you're going to repeat them. Oh, I had this terrible relationship. Well, you just repeat that relationship with someone else, until you acknowledge the fact that it's not everybody else is the problem. You're not the victim. Oh, I'm the victim. And then, no. You're responsible for your sin. So you have to repent. You have to take it to the cross. You have to take it to the throne and let the books be open and say, okay, this is me. This is where I'm at. Okay, what is on my garments? Okay, and he can take you through that process. And that's what I encourage people to do that. If you get involved with like deliverance people and all that stuff, it's not that bad. It's best for the people if they deal with God themselves. Now, if you won't face God, you won't deal with the fact that, okay, this is the judgment. You got to face the judgment. You got to deal with God. Yeah, you're going to live in sin and hurt and pains and all that stuff because you won't face God. You have to face God. You have to look in the mirror, say, I'm responsible. Okay, God, help me. I don't know what to do. Be humble. Don't be proud and arrogant and say, look, this is it. I've tried to fix this on my own. I can't. You help me. And he will. He'll take you through step by step.
Perfect. I think she will appreciate that answer. Now, Ms. Holly has also asked this multiple times. I answered it with Ephesians 6. And I think you did a piece on where it put it, having your helmet and your breastplate and having your loins guarded. Her question was, how are we supposed to be fighting a battle of spiritual warfare? Ms. Holly.
Yes, well, of course, what happens is once you begin to come into the truth, you begin to reflect light. Now, once you begin to reflect light and truth, then you enter spiritual warfare. Now, you don't go as an aggressor and say, oh, I'm going to take down the enemy, the devil's kingdom. No, you're not. You're going to get your butt whipped. But you will not avoid spiritual warfare once you know the truth. You don't have to pick your battles. Okay, I'm going to go do this and do that. No. They're going to come after you. Now, everything that comes after you has to be part of your training. It can't be like a surprise. You can't have like this big principality and like, okay, you're going to deal with the principality of America. And you're just like a housewife. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's bigger than me. No. Everything is part of the military training. You're going to be presented with the little enemy. Like, think of yourself as a baby, but you're in the army. Okay. First, you walk. Okay. You're not going to fight like a grown man. You're going to fight a little baby like you. Okay. You're going to have to fight and wrestle him. And then as you grow, you get bigger ones. Okay, so you get more discipline and training. But the Most High is a good father. He's never going to put like a big impossible devil that you will never be able to defeat in your life. No, everything was placed for you to take the opportunity of praise the Most High. I have the opportunity to overcome. So in the book of Revelation, you have to have something to overcome. Now, every believer must overcome sin, like we talked about before. But that doesn't mean you're overcome. You have to overcome the things that are in the 7 churches, Jezebel and Balaam and Nicolaitans. You have to overcome all those things. Now, you can't overcome them unless there's some type of conflict. So yeah, you'll have to have one conflict, and once that finishes, you'll have another one. But they're all there as part of our discipline and training. So yes, it is the armor. You some of them even the devil went to Christ and said, well, it is written, if you jump off the temple, his angels will have charge over you. So you have to know the scripture. You have to know the sword of the Spirit as well, because the devil will come with scripture. So, and that's what happens with the trolls. They come with scripture. The serpent in the garden, he also said, hath God said.
You're right. I agree. Okay. Next question from Sandy. She says, are prescribed drugs for ailments that people may have, such as diabetes, Pharmakia? I answer this and says, yes, it is. And why?
I believe it is, yes. I believe that, look, it says in the end of the book, it says the tree of life, the leaves for the healing of the nations. So there has to be things that are for healing that is not Pharmakia. There has to be a reason. Now, most ailments are based on diet, if we really come down to it. We just think, oh, I have this, I have that. No, you don't. You don't have any of that. If you just ate healthy, lots of people. I met this guy. He had overcome cancer, and he went to Mexico to go to this doctor to drink basically this systematic juice diet from this German doctor, and he overcame cancer. So yeah, there has to be, you have to have some, just like we talked about the 2 things. So, you have a manufactured illness based on your diet, and that's the system. So then the beast is like, okay, in order to be cured, you have to have, a Pharmakia, and that's just going to produce, other things. Consult with your doctor, and this may produce vengeance and sometimes death.
Yes, to and including death, it says on all of them. It's crazy. Okay, so you and I agree on that. It is Pharmakia, and you and I both agree on the fact that when you're prescribed by a doctor or sorcerer to take a certain Pharmakia to mask this that you don't have, it causes other problems, so you have to take more Pharmakia to cover up those things, and that's how people become full of ailments. My best advice is people just try to get off every drug you possibly can. Now, I agree, there are things out there that are medicines that are meant for healing, and they would not be Pharmakia. Somebody also asked me, is cannabis or weed Pharmakia? I said, yes, it is. It alters the mind. Familiar spirits. It says all this stuff. Just like alcohols and heroin and cocaine and marijuana, those drugs are all going to be Pharmakia too. They alter you. Okay, rapid fire. This one was from James Marion. He asked, how is Christmas a pagan holiday, and should I celebrate Christ on Christmas?
No, you shouldn't celebrate Christ on Christmas. Why is it a pagan holiday? All right. Basically what it is, well, just do the research. I mean, this is so easy. This is so easy. I'm gonna have to explain there's hours and hours of content on YouTube. Okay, what you have to realize is we have to realize that this is where the calendar comes into play. So you have to realize that once we just live in this world, we're in an entire satanic construct where everything is a lie, everything is a deception. The calendar is wrong, everything is wrong. The feasts are Babylon feasts. If you go back to the feast, basically what happened is this. Because early Christianity was so strong and so powerful, it overcame the Roman Empire. Now, once the church became so rich because everyone gave all their money into it, finally, by Constantine, it's like, okay, this is too strong, we can't defeat it. We have to basically agree. So Constantine is like an Antichrist figure. He becomes Christian. And what he does is he incorporates in order to keep everybody happy, it's a state religion of Christianity, but then you've got all the pagans and all the statues and all this. We've got to keep everybody, got to bring all that together. So the pagan holidays were incorporated into Christian ones, and they made up things like, okay, Christ was born in Christmas, but that was really another guy called Marduk, or I can't think of his name, it begins with an M. But anyway, his birthday was Christmas. And so that kept the pagans happy, and then the Christians, after a while, they, kind of went along with it. And then you got Easter, and that's Ishtar. And so, yeah, you're worshiping the devil if you're still doing that, I mean, if someone was totally isolated from the world, and let's say they came to America and you were celebrating Christmas, and you put some cookies on a plate in a glass of milk, and you said, okay, there's a big fat red guy in a suit that's going to climb through my chimney and bring presents. And this glass of milk is from him, and these cookies are for him. When, even the most primitive person will be like, what? That is the most ridiculous. How can a grown person say a ridiculous thing as that?
Again, Christmas is full of lies. That's all it is. It's a whole bunch of lies.
Lies and smoke and mirrors and just nonsense. But it's to get us, distracted. And it's a system because, look, even the early pilgrims that came to America, they were against Christmas. Okay, they were against it. They were like, no, we're making a stand against this, But it's big money. This has got to be Mystery Babylon. It's got Mystery Babylon. It has to have her feast. Okay.
Written all over it. Yep. Just
exactly.
As Halloween, Easter, Christmas, they're all pagan. Halloween is second to Christmas as far as revenue that these people talk about or after. Okay, so that was James Marion. This says another question from Keith D. Says, in the past, you did say that you were watching and waiting to see who the two witnesses are, which I did say that, and so didn't you. Do you have any update for viewers now as opposed to then as to who they are?
I don't. So this is another difficult subject that I'll avoid, answering. But I'll say this. Of course, when I went to Jerusalem, I was looking for the two witnesses. Yes. Now, I'll tell a quick story just to explain kind of the madness of the condition called Jerusalem syndrome. So what Jerusalem syndrome is, it's a kind of like religious fervor that turns into kind of a mental illness where you think, you're one of the two witnesses, basically. And so there's another YouTuber I know, and we were in Jerusalem, and we were walking, and they were like, hey, have you ever met Elijah? I was like, well, what do you mean? There's tons of Elijah. Everyone calls themselves Elijah. It's Jerusalem. He's like, no. There's this guy. He says he's one of the two witnesses. His name is Elijah. I was like, okay, let's go. And so this guy is sitting there on the Jaffa Gate, sitting down, And he goes, "Oh, this is Elijah." And I was like, "Oh, okay, hi, how you doing?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm Elijah." And he starts showing these. He drew out his visions, and so he drew out his visions, and he's saying, "Oh, this has happened." And in the vision, I was told, I was Elijah. I was like, "Oh, okay." And then now there's these young Jewish boys that come and they see us congregating, and they beginning like yelling and distracting us, right? So there's 3 of us there, and it's just like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go. I'm not getting involved in any kind of conflict. And so Elijah says to me, no, don't leave me. These children are gonna harass me. Stay, help me deal with the situation. I'm like, really? The Elijah's got to ask help from like someone else to deal with like children? I'm like, if you're Elijah, can't you be like Elisha and call the 42 bears on the children, that are harassing you? So anyway, there's lots of stories like that, in Jerusalem. And I did look, I did, but I don't know. I don't, 2 witnesses is one of my worst thorns in the side. Well, if it is, where are the 2 witnesses? And I'm like, well, I don't know. We'll just watch. We'll see. Of course, if the view was that the sequence of trumpets was such that, that the 7th trumpet would have completed before the bowls, well, then the 2 witnesses would have completed with them. So, yeah, we were watching for that. And even the circumstances in Jerusalem were such that it seemed like, yeah, something could happen. There were, that's when the conflicts and the rioting and later the war with Gaza took place after that, So the other thing is, what are the 2 witnesses? Are they the Old Testament and New Testament? No, we believe it's the most vivid prophecy in Scripture, actually, is Revelation 11. Because you have in the streets. It has to be in the street. The Lord was crucified. There's a great earthquake. I mean, it is so dramatic. It's the most dramatic movie-like scene, that's being depicted. So we have to look at that as literal. It's not just, symbolic in nature. Those are not two books can't lie dead in the street, that rise to heaven. So no, it would appear to be 2 people. But who they are and all that. Yeah, I mean, people will send me certain people on YouTube. There was this guy that wore sackcloth and he went to Washington, D.C. And, I don't know. I just think, look, everything. If you notice about prophecy, okay, we're watching the abomination, the desolation. If you really notice, everything is happening, but it's happening differently than what you think.
That's 100%.
So the 2 witnesses as well have to be different than what we think. Oh, it's not going to be this Moses guy with sackcloth and a long beard, with a staff. No, they're going to be regular, looking people. But no, they would be doing these things. And who knows? Maybe they are there. Maybe that's who did the blood pool that was in Jordan, But it's going to be. Look. The other thing that people don't know is they don't know that the state of Israel knows about all these prophecies, all of them. And so they're heavily monitoring and censoring the situation. So now we have a difficult time in our hands where we have this time and we have like nobody in Jerusalem reporting for us. Well, what's going on? Everyone is, more or less subject to the government censorship and everything. So it's going to be more and more difficult to actually, see them. Most of us say, oh, they're going to be on God TV, and oh, okay, we're the 2 witnesses, and see, here's my staff, and But what if Daniel is a type of the 2 witnesses? What if it's something you don't really expect?
Could be anyone or anything right now. Who knows? The group I was working with years ago really pushed the button on it being 1 first and Second Testament, Christians and Jews, and they actually did a video on that. I did help with it. It was like the second video they ever did, or third video, and I tend to lean more along the lines of myself that it is going to be two individuals. I'm watching and waiting just like you, so I'm on your side too with that. Okay. What is something that in particular you might be watching and waiting for from November to Pentecost coming up here? Is there something that you might be saying, ooh, I need to read into that, ooh, I need to look into that?
Yeah, it's a good point. Actually, I think one of the things that we're conditioned with is we're conditioned to this kind of news cycle, and especially now. I mean, look, it's the end of the world. It's exciting. It's interesting. It's fascinating. But we're conditioned to constantly be, seeing this visual stimuli of the end of the world every day, and it's like this news cycle. And the next day it's this, and it's da. And the kind of the work that I'm doing, it's kind of like, no, this is what we're watching for, and what happened. Okay, so you can see that, through a small group of us, we identified Netanyahu was Zedekiah. But we identified that shortly after he was out of office, so that was a few months ago. But it wasn't until, recently that, shortly before, maybe just a few days or a week or two before I had contacted you about the timeline, about this Jeremiah 52, that I pieced together 9/11. That's recent. Now, so that's an example of just staying on the prophecy, staying on what happened, keep studying, keep digging, keep looking. Now, this is going back to the 4th month. That's, 3 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago,
yeah, that
happened. So now, we're actually looking back at what happened. So actually, that's what I've been doing recently is going back there. And so, yes, I'm looking forward as well. Looking forward to, now it's about a month, less than a month, headed to November 10th. Yeah, we're watching for that. And like I said, the prophecy is at hand. The people that aren't used to this type of thing, well, nothing happened on November 10th.
Nothing has to happen.
Maybe it did. It's just not obvious. It's not like, okay, this, because I'm not a prophet. I'm not saying, thus says the Lord, this is going to happen on this day. I'm not. I'm just a believer like you, reading the Bible, saying, okay, well, Christ said to watch. When you see these things, watch. When you see the abomination that makes desolate, watch. I'm just saying, look, we're in the times of it. The prophecy is at hand. So, okay, to answer now, then the next phase of this, it has to be the third temple. Now, with the third temple, some people say, well, Leeland, you discovered the third temple underground, the synagogue of Satan, by the Western Wall. Could it be that? Yeah, it could be that. I'm inclined not to believe that we're going to see anything, because they have basically a gag order that there's no filming there. So now there's no filming of the synagogue. So even if something happens and someone goes there, we're not going to see it. Unless it's just a regular person that gets a camera that goes and looks. If someone could do that for us, that would be great. But I do expect something as part of the third temple. Now, I had a couple videos that I posted on the backup channel, Leeland Jones 4. And there was a guy that said, yes, there's going to be an edifice on the Temple Mount. So in studying the third temple, yes, we believe it's on the Temple Mount. Because in Zechariah 5, they make for her a house on the base. So the base is the Temple Mount, and they make a house on top of that. Daniel says the sanctuary fortress. Okay, sanctuary fortress. How can you have a sanctuary fortress? Well, you have a fortress, you have a base, you have the Temple Mount, and the sanctuary is on top of it. Now, this guy said that the peace deal had a provision for them to have a prayer hall and edifice on the Temple Mount. Okay? And so, you know, he said this on an interview. He said it publicly. It was just like, wow, okay. And so that appears to be in the works. And the other thing is, whatever they do, it's not like it's going to take 7 years like Solomon to build a temple. Whatever they decide to do is already like Legos prefab somewhere where they're just going to, you know, put it together. Yeah.
They just move it there and put it back together, like you said.
Exactly, like overnight, like the Muslims, the Waf, they do all this stuff like at night on the Temple Mount when no one's looking. You know, that's what I was waiting for. Like during the you know, all the protests and everything. I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if just the next day something appeared there?
See, I tend to tell people that nothing has to happen on that day or the next day or 2 months from then. Nothing has to happen. Something will line up with that prophecy as fulfilling it, whether we notice it with our eyes as happening or not. That's what I tend to tell people, which I think is basically what you just said. Okay, that covers that. In your opinion, what is something that, it doesn't have a name, but he should be praying for in the current time that we're living in? I didn't write down the name, so I'm going to call him a he.
Okay, so what should we be praying? We are living in such dreadful times that your entire life, I mean, has to be focused on prophecy and prayer. I mean, we're in such horrible, dreadful times that, look, the mark of the beast is here. Okay, the things in the prophecy are here. Okay, there is a fear of the Lord, the fear of His return. Okay, because you don't have any more time. You don't have any more time to.
Time's up.
To get it right, you know. It says the time is at, you know, the time is fulfilled, you know. There's time no longer. So we're living in time no longer. So as we mentioned earlier in the call, where all the stuff that you do to exist and blah, 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 just pray, seek. Now, in modern Christianity, modern Pentecostals, we don't really know about prayer. How can you pray like all the time? All day, you know? How can you live? And this has been an exercise myself over the months. You know, I didn't have to do YouTube. I didn't have to do anything. So I was shut up in here, and all I could do is pray. Now, how can you pray? How can you just do that, you know, all the time? Well, you can. It's just a longing and desire, not just for the plagues and judgment that are coming down on you, but for Christ. I mean, if all of this is happening, this means that Christ is coming. This means that He is coming to be in a temple in Jerusalem.
Yes, He is.
It's all going to happen. Okay. Now, we all would like to think that the Christ we know, holding the little sheep, standing at the door, knocking. Okay, we want to say He's like His coming before, you know. Ministering healing and dealing, you know. No, that's not what the apocalypse is. It's the revealing of Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the Haya, Ahasher, Ahaya. So what He does is He comes in the glory of the Father. So when He comes in the glory of the Father, it's a different glory than even He exhibited on Mount Transfiguration, because now he is coming as Yahweh. So in the Ezekiel temple, it says Yahweh is there. So he is Yahweh there. Now he's not Yahweh. I mean, there's the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Okay, but he exemplifies the Father and the Spirit because he has 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God. So that's the Holy Spirit. You know, he has hair white as wool. Okay, so he's exemplifying the characteristics of the Ancient of Days. He is the King of the ages. He is the King of, you know, the Ancient of Days. So we're not ready for that, because that's basically Yahweh the Father appearing in the Old Testament. Christ is going to be like that. It's going to be a combination of Yahweh in the Old Testament with Christ coming in the New Testament. Okay? Now, you know, he was coming with quick judgment to the children of Israel in the wilderness, you know, and all that, right? That's what we're to expect. So what do you do? I mean, that has to shake you to the core. Now, you can be excited. It can be exciting, okay, if you understand the prophecy and the 2 wings, the transfer, the entering in of this, okay? But for most of us, we don't have really any idea of what we're in for. We're in just serious trouble. So
I agree with you there. I don't think most folks that I know outside of my household really know what we're actually in for. I did a video just a few weeks ago, last month sometime. It's titled Who is the Lord of Spirits? I don't know if you watched that or not. If you do, let me know your opinion sometime. But it touches on exactly what you just talked about. The 7 eyes is the 7 spirits. And I spend a lot of time in the book of Enoch in that video. I put a lot of time and energy and effort into that video, and it's one of the least watched videos that I got, which I'm sure you've got some of those as well, where you put a lot of time and energy into something to try to explain something clearly, and everybody's just like, whatever. I want to know when the rapture is. That's what people do. But more power to them. So I got one question of my own, and then one question that everybody else has been asking me lately. One question of my own is, what is your favorite parable that taught you the most about how you should be living? I'm going to tell you, mine is in the book of John, chapter 4. It showed me the sheer power that Jesus had when he was sitting on the well, and that woman, and he just, woman, I know you, go get your husband. Then he says, your son lives, to the other guy that came up to see him. And that showed me the sheer power of the Christ. He didn't even have to move. He just thought it, and the son lives. What's your favorite?
Now, when you say parable, that's like his works, though. Like, do you want like his works, or do you want like a parable, a story he had?
Whichever taught you the most about how you should be living your life.
Okay. When you first said that, my first thought was the parable of the talents. And I think this is a really indicative parable for me and reflecting on my life. Now, I'm really actually glad that you're not asking me a lot about, you know, my life and my testimony, because my life was just so vain and pointless and just so full of shame and blindness and sin and ignorance. I don't even want to talk about it. But actually, the parable of the talents is a perfect example of that. So basically, I was working in kind of the .com companies, and I worked for one and bankrupt, and I needed like a new career, and I I was slowly working myself out of a very, very backslidden state. So I was still an apostate Christian, definitely. And I said, well, I read the parable of the talents, and it's like, okay, he gave this one talents, and it seemed like the Lord was pleased with the fact that this person like went to the bank and like made money. I said, well, okay, I'm going to be a financial advisor. That's what I'm going to do. You know, I said, that's what that parable means. So obviously, and I set goals. I said, okay, by such and such time, I'm going to have my own practice, and I did all my goals. I got everything accomplished very, very quickly. Within, you know, it took a few years, but you know, I got there. Once I got there, it just all, you know, collapsed. Mm-hmm. So what I thought the parable of the talents was in a apostate Christian mindset. Now, what I learned about what that meant was in Pentecost 2016. So in Pentecost 2016, I had sold my house and I had no money. I had $40. I have a video where I show the people, I said, look, I have $40.
I remember it.
Did you see that?
I did. I remember it. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. That is a good video. The people should watch that. Okay, so what I did is I had $40. I went into the woods in my RV, and I have $40. And I said, you know, this is the end of the world. What are we going to do? Christ has the grain. He has the wheat. Are we going to face him? Do we know he's Joseph? You know, it's really good. I can't even repeat it. It was so much better. I did it by the Spirit at the time. And so what are we going to do? We're going to serve him our money. And I said, this is all I have. And I slapped on the table $40. This is all I have. And I said, I'm not serving money. I'm serving you, Yeshua. This is all I have. I'm not serving Mammon. I'm not serving that guy in that treasury building. I serve you in your house. Okay, so I did that. I posted that on YouTube. And a guy watched that. He said, oh, I like this guy. He has guts. And he invited me to South Africa, and now it's been 17 countries. But what happened shortly after that, just a few weeks after that, Jason, what happened is he gave me the heavenly currency. So as I explained before, the whole parable of the talents and all that, I didn't understand that. I understood that as a worldly construct. But how to actually determine the number of shekels in a talent in that actual currency, it's called the shekel of the sanctuary. And it was only like, if you look at the date of the video, you can see it. It's only like a few weeks, because I posted the video on Pentecost. It's something like the gates of New Jerusalem or something like that. And then you can see another video I posted called the shekel of the sanctuary. And when I posted the shekel of the sanctuary, I actually proved to the people what the shekel of the sanctuary is. It calculates the talents. Mm-hmm. So I've been living off this financial economic system ever since. So I was granted this multiplication of these talents, not by working in financial services for the beast. I did by sacrificing all I have. I was like the widow's mite. That was all I had. Mm-hmm. And so we took that faith and converted that into the multiplication of the talents. And the talents is really people. It's really people. That's really what the gold is. It's not anything in this world.
I agree. That is a great teaching. You know, the parable of the talents. Mine, I guess, is not really a parable. It's more of his works. You're right. And what it did for me is it taught me I don't need to question whether or not he is going to do something. I know that he has got this power. He knows he knows the number of hairs I have on my head. He knew the number of husbands this woman had, never met her face to face before. And he just said, go your way, your son lives. And the son lived. It, like, wow, it showed me that holy power, holy moly, you know? You don't have to question it. It just is what it is. That's what it did for me. And yours is the parable of the talents. Okay, so one last question here, I guess, is the best way for people to stay caught up on your content and your studies?
You talk about new stuff or
New
going
stuff.
back?
Going for it, only because you're not on YouTube anymore. I think everybody realizes that you're not on YouTube because it was your time to stop. You had done what you set out to do, and we all miss you on there. But people still are looking for your content. Now I got people coming to my channel saying, you know, how do I get a hold of his content? I'm going to let them know. I'm going to put your stuff, links to your content in the description field of this video.
Well, this is a huge problem. It's a huge struggle, and it's a work in progress. But I'll tell you where we're at right now. Now, are you getting the community tab posts, Jason?
I am getting them when you post them. However, I got a few friends of mine that are subscribed to you as well. They are not. And I believe it has something to do with how they're subscribed and the alerts.
Right. So I just want to explain to people, talk them through the process. Okay, so first off, you're most likely not going to get notifications. So you can hit the notification bell. You get the notification bell. The thing you want to do is that when you look at your subscription page of your subscribers when they post, you want to make sure that you click the button that says videos and posts. If you get videos only, you're not going to see my posts. You're only going to see your subscriber list when they post videos. So if I'm not posting videos, you're not going to see my posts. So first, make sure your subscriber list, you've chosen videos and posts, so that if a video and post comes from your subscriber list, comes from me, you'll see it in your list. Okay. Secondly, if you want to go back, you can see that I've been posting community tab posts for almost 2 months. So you can go back and you can see all those posts, and you can go back and see, you know, the ones on the recent series. So this is a recent series on, you know, what we talked about today in Jeremiah 52. So we covered those. I'm having a very, very hard time finding different ways to post videos, and it's still a work in progress. There's probably some good news coming. Some things are in the works, but it's not here yet. So what I'm doing is this, guys. I'm posting community tab posts on YouTube so that you can see them. Now you have to check these. You have to see, make sure your box, you check your subscribers. I'm posting every Tuesday and Friday. Now, if you can also check my blog. So Johnny Storm at Don't Speak News has allowed me a section of his blog where I can make blog posts. So I'm making blog posts every Tuesday and Friday.
Okay, so you said that's Johnny Storm at don'tspeaknews.com.
Yes.
Okay, that one I had not heard of. And now that I know, I will go there myself. I'll put a link to that in the description field for everybody.
Well, basically what I'm doing, when I make a community tab post and I put a link there, it's just taking you right to that blog. So yeah, you've been there already without realizing it.
All right.
So that blog, what I'm doing is I'm doing blog posts, I'm doing videos. And so within a blog post, there'll be a video, there'll be, you know, referrals to other videos, like we're watching La Palma. So yeah, La Palma, you know, is a sign of Sariah in this the year that Zedekiah was captured. So yeah, it could happen. Okay. Now we got many other videos where we talk about tsunamis on Babylon. So then we link to those videos there in the YouTube community post and in the blog. So there you can see I'm doing regular posts. I've been doing regular posts for 2 months. Now, eventually, yes, we're gonna have to stop all YouTube altogether. I'm not quite there yet. You know, and I will have a video on YouTube explaining, you know, kind of where we're at, where to find the information and things like that. But for right now, what we're doing, we have community tab posts happening every Tuesday and Friday. Look at your streams. Sometimes we're doing them daily. We have daily videos. Sometimes it's a couple times a week, but they're community tab posts on YouTube. Then what you should do is just bookmark, keep it up. Don't Speak News. Go to the menu. You'll see Leeland Jones blog, and just look at the blog. You can see all the videos in the blog that are recent videos.
Oh, okay.
And this is where you have to go, because I'm struggling so much to post videos on the alternative platforms. So I had to delete my Rumble account because the QR code video was so viral. There were so many trolls. I was just spending hours deleting comments. I just deleted the account. I said, forget it. It's
a garbage platform anyway. It really is. It's garbage. It's a terrible platform. It really is.
Yeah,
okay.
It is. But some of them I can't even just post videos. I can't even like put a video on the platform. So the fact, even though it's terrible, you know, but the comments just knocked me out. I couldn't do that. So sorry about that. But now what it is, I got BitChute. I got them going on BitChute for now. And so there you can see, you know, the recent ones. So one of the ones that was really popular that the people asked about was on Rumble was the QR code video, where we look at the microchip and the QR codes. And so that's on BitChute now. So you can get that. You can also look at the Bluetooth. If any of you guys are trying the Bluetooth feature, you know, those are a couple videos on those. And then other recent ones I'll try and get on there as well.
Okay, and on BitChute, it's just at Leeland Jones?
I think if you search Leeland J, my normal handle is Leeland J on these platforms. So you search Leeland J at BitChute. The other thing about the blog is if you go to the blog, you'll see a resources page. Okay, you see the blog, House of David, you know, welcome to Leeland Jones blog. There's a resource page. In that resource page of all these things, they'll be right there straight away. Odyssey, BitChute, all those links will be right there. And all the playlists on YouTube and the notes. So what's happening is YouTube is in the alphabet soup is doing so many crazy things. I just can't deal with it. So like I put all the documents on Google Drive. And on Google Drive, what they're doing is I just share everything. You don't have to ask permission. It's all shared. But what they're doing is they're making it difficult for the people where even though I shared it, it's not shared for them. So they got to send me a notice, ask for permission.
That happened to me as well. That happened to me as well. I was trying to share the Tribulation timeline spreadsheet. It would not let me post the entire link. I'm sorry, everyone that had a problem with that. I figured out that they had changed it so only a certain number of characters of a link shared will be shown. So when you click on that, it takes you to a 404 error or something crazy like that. It's best just to share the whole drive. I agree with you. Okay, so, and I'll put a link to your whole drive in the description field of this video too, so people have access to it through this video. And
yeah, but definitely no, direct people to the blog, to the blog.
I'll have people on the blog.
Trying to get them off Drive. Yeah, the Drive is still there. Okay, it's still there, but these are the problems I'm having with that. So all the PDF files are on the blog.
Okay. Gotcha. Very good. If you have anything else to say, I'm done with questions.
Yeah, I'd like to do this some more too.
Me
you
too.
know, being that I'm off of YouTube, I already have a YouTube filter in my mind of, so I can be nice. But yeah, I think it's good. I think that people will appreciate more of the conversational, type interview. I just want to tell everybody I love you very much. I really do. I love you very much. Thanks for watching. It's difficult. Some of the things I could tell you of what I've been through, how I sacrificed to give you the information that's just free to you, for you just to have. You weren't thrown in prison in the Middle East and poisoned, and you just click on a video. That's all you got to do. But it's heartbreaking for me because I feel like it's over, it's finished, and it makes me weep, because this is what it's really about. It's really about him.
And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. Revelation 20 verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. And the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. Revelation 20 verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And they were judged, every man according to their works. Revelation 20 verse 14. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Revelation 20 verse 15. And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Revelation 21:8. But the fearful, and the unbelieving, and the abominable and murderers, and whoremongers and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars, will have their part in the lake burning with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.